seconds out till DadPod begins. Now I unmuted the mic. They can hear this.
I got you. Denise or Dennis?
Denise.
All right, what's going on, everybody? God loves you, and we love you here on DadPod. Right, we're at a new destination tonight for the podcast. It's actually probably one of the nicer
I brought
setups
a
we've had so far. And we got Jeremy Munkus on tonight's episode along with my little lovely daughter. And what's this cat's name?
Denise.
Denise. Or Dennis.
Denisovich.
Or
I'm gonna put her with the other cats. No.
But God loves you and we love you here on DadPod. Right? And tonight's episode is going to be, it's labeled the same as last night. It's Ark-eology, but tonight's going to be the sequel. Right? Because I went back and listened for the most part. We didn't talk about the Ark a whole lot, which is fine. I mean, it's just good to give us a basis of what we're going to talk about. But we're going to be talking more about the Ark tonight on tonight's episode. So it's episode 25. It's not episode 24. So if you're watching on Facebook Live, it shows 24. That's not right. It's actually 25. This is going to be the season 2 finale. All right, we're already this is 50 episodes for DadPod. All right, we want to thank several people for bringing it forward. Yeah, I ain't got my little applause button, my little applause thing with me tonight. But that's 50 episodes that DadPod is now on. And we want to thank God first and foremost for helping bring everything about, for placing Juarez Boxing in my path. That is my paycheck. It's my passion turned paycheck. So if you're looking to get any training for you, yourself, your kid, elderly, you name it, just reach out to me, give me a shout. I can take care of you. Next, we want to thank Brandon Foster, Wood Foster's and Son Custom Woodcrafts. Now, he's the one that made the beautiful flag that has been in the background of several videos. I think it's episode 13 cover art. You can see the flags that he has made. They are beautiful. And next, we want to thank Tyler Etress with Nothing Fancy Lawn Care and Pressure Washing Service. All right. Now, with that being said, we grew up with Tyler. Now, you know Tyler a little bit too, don't you?
Yeah, I actually grew up with him a little bit too.
I think you
when
grew
I was
up
littler.
You knew him and grew up with him a little bit closer than I did. Actually, I believe. I think y'all lived closer to him than I did. So, it was always funny. You always had nice cars and whatnot, but never really tore up Riverside like Tyler did. Tyler always. It was funny. I could always hear him coming, but I liked the car. My dad didn't. My dad was always like, who is that in this car?
I'm gonna sit out there with my lights on.
Right, I'm
over.
gonna sit out there and arrest him. Whichever. Now I know it wasn't that intense, but definitely not. Still, he had some nice cars. They were loud too. He had that Nova. The Nova was the one. I think that little 4-door Nova. Yeah. Yeah. And if he chimes in or listens to this one, I know he'll make a comment about it. I think that was his heart. Yeah. It was that Nova. Is kind of like me and my GTO. Somebody talks about a GTO, I know what I'm listening.
You're instantly like.
Eavesdropping. What are you talking about? And then I like to ask questions to see if they know what they're talking about. Sometimes. But one thing that I feel like I know a little bit more about now. Come on. You want to come say hey? No? You want to come say hey? It's called, come here. Sophie actually has already joined it. Come on. You want to come say hey? Just come wave and say hey. You don't have to. If you want to, though. Look, you want Sophie to walk with you? Let Sophie walk with you up here. You coming? All right, good deal. All right, so this is Alex's youngest, right? What's your name? Elena. How old are you? 7. All right, good.
I was born and then she was born.
Yeah, so I think you and Sophie have really similar birthdays, huh? Yeah, it's like one day apart.
And
one floor apart. Now, you went with us on the trip. You and Sophie did. What was your favorite part about the Ark?
I didn't like the Ark.
You didn't?
No, I didn't like walking.
You didn't like walking. Did you like learning about any of the animal in there, though? Did you see any of the animal in there?
I like the dinosaurs.
You like the dinosaurs? See, now nobody likes the walking, so I'll agree with you on that.
I like the park, but not that much.
You didn't like walking.
It was very fun, but I wish it was snowing.
You wanted it snowing because of how hot it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was real hot.
It was warm.
But I mostly liked what I got.
You got the presents?
I got a porcupine.
Yeah.
Oh, she got a porcupine?
Here,
What do they have in them there?
How do you say it?
Porcupine.
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 A porcupine.
You sit right there and I'm going to go get it. Right here.
But I know my favorite part was when we got in there and how far off, I know they did a really, really good job at narrowing down. Oh, so we got the porcupine. You want me? Can I hold the porcupine? Yeah. So we got the porcupine on porcupine. Porcupine on tonight's episode. All right, what's the porcupine's name?
Spike.
Spike. How ironic.
Guess what? I got a bunny.
What is your bunny's name? Effie?
I named him.
You didn't name him yet. You just wanted the rabbit.
I got him.
If you
Rosie.
you name him, you gonna name him Rosie? Is that your
I
name?
named all my stuffed animals Rosie.
All of them. Well, I know my favorite part about the animal was, or about the Ark, was learning about the animal, but I wonder how far off, like the way they had it set up to feed the animal and stuff like that.
Dude, that was awesome in itself.
That alone.
Very like next level for back then. That was like next level.
Well, and that's
Feeding.
but that's the world takes out the fact they think mankind wasn't smart back then. They literally teach that we were cavemen at a certain point in the fire. Do you think we were like, if we were ever that dumb, I don't believe we could have ever progressed to this point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We had to be bred with some kind of, imagine Adam and Eve being born, not knowing anything. How long do you think Adam would have lived if he didn't know what was dangerous? You know what I mean?
It's not like they were out there like,
Right. Now, if you
he
want to think
automatically
about it.
had a vision too, so.
Ava, do you want to come say hey? Come here. Come on over. You gonna put your shoes on? Come on over. This is the first time we've ever kind of been able to interview. But well, no, Hunter was able to interview with both his kids briefly, and now we're able to get. I've had Sophie on all of them, so now we're gonna get Ava on here. Now this is Alex's oldest
daughter.
Well, here, let you take it.
Hi.
What's your name?
Ava.
What was your favorite part about the Ark?
I don't know.
Or did you not like it either?
I don't like it.
You didn't like walking?
No. I didn't like reading it either. I
Why
just
not?
read. Well, I read some of the God things.
Yeah.
Did you like any of the animals?
Uh-huh.
Which one was your favorite?
The llama. I mean, the camel.
Camel. Did you ride the camel? What? You rode a camel? Now, they're actually dromedary camels. Did you know that? Do you know the difference? I didn't either, but I can kind of help you a little bit. The dromedary's got one hump, whereas the real big camels that's like in Egypt, and I'm not sure exactly their names, but they're like by something because they have two humps.
The one that
So the one we rode, or the ones you all rode, had one hump. That's a dromedary camel. It's still a camel.
That'd be weird to have two humps, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And you remember how big that camel was you rode? Think about it. Imagine how big the one is with two.
Yeah, that'd be a big camel.
His name
I
was
bet he
Moses.
weighs. His name
He
was
was.
Moses.
He was 13 in humans world, and he was 30 in camel world.
Wow. He's kind of a mid-aged camel then, huh?
Yeah.
Just out there running circles with kids.
I know if I was that camel, I'd be hot and be ready to get in the bath.
Well, and
Or
I
a
said
big
that.
lake.
I said that too, but just like and then my mom said, well, for one, they're bred like that. They're made to travel and walk. I mean, that is literally their.
Yeah, they did used to walk back in the desert.
Right, they're
times.
bred like
But
that.
Not these nowadays, though.
But no, it's not that. But they have evolved. You think about it, man. Like my dog, if he could not make it outside, he'd die.
yeah.
He would die.
If
I
he
don't know
had
how
shelter all
long,
the time.
but
Yeah.
just not understanding like somebody always putting out food and water for you and that kind of stuff. That's where the animal will eventually lose. Like, how do I find this on my own? And you might get hurt trying to figure that out once you lose your natural instinct of it. Then you get that trial and error. This is where you have like natural selection kind of falls out. It's not natural selection. It's like, they may not have known that was hot, or something like that.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
What'd you
But
I'm gonna go outside.
Yeah.
be careful.
Okay.
But going back to I liked looking at the way. See, here's my thing. How did they know the inner mechanisms of it?
Dude, I don't know, man. It's,
For them to.
It
I can tell you now, I
blows
don't-
my mind, like to think how he put together this back then. Honestly,
mind-boggling.
Like in all the because in today's time they talked about all the cranes and equipment they had to build it. And it's
Well,
a big-
would they have had to have that if they had animals that they could work with that were big enough to say hoist it?
no, probably not. But also, it did take him 120 years. So
Right. And with that being said, here's the other thing we don't think about though too is how long do you think the world has been going from the time Adam and Eve were made to the flood?
Yeah.
There's been a lot of time between here. They were already blacksmithing at this point. They were already like, I don't know about wine and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
but they knew what they could get from what was given to them.
yeah.
Already.
Yeah.
And that's the thing though. I don't know how long Adam and Eve were born until they started, like Cain and Abel.
Well, look at all the
They started populating really, really fast. Like, that's the thing. I don't think the world's ever gonna be to a point of overpopulation, because that seems like you're saying that God didn't have it aligned, that he overpopulation can't be like the issue per se, because if that's something that's gonna end the world, that's either, for one, God said that was what's gonna end it, but he didn't say that. I don't think overpopulation and that kind of stuff is necessarily a worry of God's, because he didn't build it this way or build it that way
He
to
does
run
probably
out.
worry about, well, in a sense, because it is running out like of natural
Right
foods,
now,
because
but what
we're cutting
happens?
all of our grass and trees and stuff.
Well, we say that. Now, do y'all remember this trip to Kentucky? How much greenery did we pass through there?
we did
See,
see a lot there.
that is what makes me realize, for one, as soon as we tear down like 100 acres, something got shut down somewhere that got bought out and then it's probably regrown back up.
Yeah.
There's not one part of me believes that God would have made the world to where it was not going to be sufficient for us, even in today's time with us destroying it the way we are. The birth is too good to take
Unless
away.
there's a bunch of
you know?
man-made chemicals on the land, it's going to regrow.
Even then, does the potato still not grow?
Yeah.
In those Idaho death fields, they kill everything out there except the one thing that they want to grow. That tells me that it's not meant to kill everything off, and you can't
I get
anyways,
you, yeah.
because there's still something's going to grow somewhere somehow. The gift of birth is too strong. You know, that's where I like to think, once again, my mom led me to church, not my dad.
Yeah.
So in my eyes, you want to think about it, it's like I'm going to hold my mom higher than my dad, because she's the one that held the godly characteristics. And that's where you can't let the Bible take away the womanly standards. You know, still held high. But just like anything, I've said it 100 times, I'm sure if it came down to it, you would rather Alex go out and shoot the deer and skin it and kill it than you to have to worry about dealing with that mess. Now, would you maybe want to one day be like, I wonder what it takes to do that? Sure, that's where you get to join your husband, go hunting with him, but that doesn't mean you have to do his job.
Yeah.
You know, the whole point is, so men are doing things we don't feel like our wives should have to do to make us through the daily lives that we go through. Now, feel free to tag along. You know, couples all the time do the same jobs.
Yeah.
Right? So what? You're growing together. That's cool. That's fine. That's dandy. But to try to be like I don't need him kind of, it's not even about that. You want him. It's not that you think you need him. You're going to want him. I promise. Because there's going to be times when you're going to bed at night when you think all day long by being by yourself was great. When you go to bed, you're going to be like, dang. Right? Just all those, there's going to be millions of different ways it goes about. But to try not to back off to it, though, the way things were back then, we just discredit how smart and what they actually had and were able to use. You know, that's why the language sounded the way it did. Like I'm learning the Hebrew, trying to learn Ani Nick.
Yeah.
Right? Trying to learn, my name's Nick. It's very simple. It took me probably 30 minutes to figure that out. But not really. But what I'm getting at is even just the way it sounded, would sound like gibberish to us.
Yeah,
but they're speaking
that was
in
their language.
Fluent English. Yeah. They're hearing what we hear right
Our,
now.
our language is man-made, created too. So.
Well, we take from, you know, all of our language, and I haven't made it this far in the Bible yet, but all of how we talk derives from it. The first book ever written was the Bible. The Bible talks about everything. The way it was created. If it's the book about the creation, it's got to be the beginning it's got to be the first book, right? Yeah. The way I see it. Now, maybe something was written before the Bible started being constructed somewhere between there, but I don't believe if that was true, it's in the Bible.
Yeah. Well, they do say they've taken a lot out of the Bible.
They've taken a lot out too, but the oldest book is still in the Bible. That's what gets me. Still the oldest book, and if it's older than the Bible itself, then that means it was being written during the time the stories of the Bible were being played out. Nobody was writing them down yet, or somebody was, but it was not being like recorded per se, I guess, in a folder, you know, because at some point somebody had to start making sure they had all this stuff together and was not losing anything. And then, you get into where we take our worldly translations out, you know, to it. And you have to be careful. But 100%, if you take a Bible that you got 10 years ago or 20, 30 years ago versus read one now, it's going to read or say a couple of things different. But did you know that the dimensions on the Ark are what they use to build modern day cruise ships today? Those same exact measurements, dimensions, and all that kind of stuff. Now, obviously,
so
it can't
like
be it can't be literal, but it's the dynamics of how it was built. You know, the stern. Look at the front of the cruise ships and stuff. It catches the wind. It pulls the boat with the wind, so it doesn't capsize. Right? I don't know how many boats you think were built before Noah built that one.
Right?
I don't know.
Probably.
I don't think none. Maybe some
Definitely
kayaks
not of
or
that
something.
size for sure.
Not this big.
And it was very large in person.
Everything I told everybody, and I posted about it too. Whatever you think about the ark, it ain't right.
Yeah.
Because even I had like, oh, I don't have the worldly perception because the worldly perception thinks this and that. When I got there, I was like, that is not even what I thought.
Dude, well,
That
I
is
went into
beyond.
it thinking, like, just knowing about it, thinking about it, like, oh man, this thing must have held a lot of animals. But, like, seeing it in person, you're like, holy cow.
How many
And
did it
now
really
I know
hold?
so much and feel so much different about it now.
Looking at
In
like
a better perspective.
100% the better perspective. That's what I like about it. It's the way I look at it now. I had a good look about it before, but it's
Yeah.
even stronger now. It's like, man, how do we not believe this? For one. And then, how many other, did you know there are flood legends that are not biblical that talk about, they even have a correlation to the Bible. They were talking about, there's a Chinese flood legend, and it's written in Chinese, and it talks about in the Bible how there was this one man named such and such, and I can look it up, and translate it into Noah later down the road, but that was not a biblical book. This was a flood legend written, what history is going to say millions of years ago, but we're not that old. But a flood legend written thousands of years ago that was not biblical, that was found that they talked about one man was saved, only him and his family. That correlated into the ark and was not even part of the Bible. How do you know there's like 13 different flood legends that all claim some family making it after the flood, but are not biblical correlations? They say it, and then it's like it's still true, but it's what you perceive of it is godly or devil.
Oh, so you're saying like they believe this, but it's not actual.
They're
Noah.
gonna write it, but they're gonna say, you know, like he was the god of the seaweeds or something. You see what I'm saying? Like they're gonna take it and not say that it was a god of now, but they worship that god, not the god.
Yeah.
Right? The lowercase gods is what they worship. Poseidon, something like, did God maybe have, like, was there a god of water back then or something? Don't know. I was not around back then, but I do know is this tells me not to, the Bible tells me not to worship that God. So even if that God was real, that God had a higher power, is what I'm looking at. And if I can be on the same level as my God, that means I can relate with him and that I'm as smart as him. That can't be right, because you guys see how crappy I can handle some of the technical stuff. If I can understand how God made something, or how my God made something, that means he's on the same intellectual base as me. That can't be good for his creation. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If he's as smart as his creation is, that means he's susceptible to the same things of his creation. He can't be of his creation. He created it and had to step out of it. He can't be a part of it. So for me to be able to explain how he did it would mean that he is inside it with me or has left some kind of instruction manual. Now there is, it's the Bible, but that does not tell us how he actually moves and works.
Yeah.
You know, there's a portion of science that goes beyond our humanly understanding that becomes theories, and then that's what they teach in schools, and that takes you away from God. Now, is that the intention? Maybe not, but the devil's the art of confusion, and he does really, really good with it.
Oh yeah.
So, but looking at how they, when I walked in there, and you walk down and you've got all the different cages, all the animal are in, but it's got the catwalks above it. They were feeding the animal from above.
Yeah.
Pouring
Definitely
it down.
the water, because it was catching from rainwater.
Right, but see, now that was the other thing too. It's I knew they didn't have fish on the ark and whatnot, but did you read that part about where they were talking about? Have you ever thought about that? How did we get the fish?
No, I don't guess, but I guess I've just instantly.
He didn't have
thought.
to put an aquarium on.
No,
the ark.
exactly. I just
he had
instantly
plenty of
thought
water.
that there's so much water.
He had so much water around him, there was enough of it.
Yeah.
Now, science likes to believe that the two, fresh water and salt water, will not mix. Okay. So with that being said, science believes that there was a portion while the boat was floating, the two columns didn't mix, so your freshwater and your saltwater fish stayed separated until it rested, and then it spreads out.
Yeah.
Sounds
Like
sounds
kind of
good to
pockets.
me. Sounds good to me, but you still try to explain exactly how God did it, and I don't think you can. But the fish, right? That's where now he said to put like your amphibians had to go on the ark, kind of thing. Flies, gnats, ants, all this stuff. Where did those go? You ever thought about that? For one, ant, I don't know how hard you think it'd be to fit a male and a female ant anywhere on the boat, as long with 2 flies, 2 gnats, whichever. It doesn't say about all that stuff. But what I'm getting at is those kind of things would not have had to actually have their own like cage on the ark because they could have just floated.
Flies with ants.
Flies can sit on top of the water. You see what I'm saying?
And then again, they could have been something different back there. So that's what they've evolved into now.
Right. Well, I mean, now that's where science has probably got some smarts about bacteria evolving into something. You know, because like gnats, like maggots, like it starts as a maggot, the maggot turns into the fly, or however, you know, that kind of stuff.
Or the fly lays the eggs.
However, those forms of evolution you can see, but to tell me that I came from something like that,
Oh, no.
you bumped your noggin. At least I believe that my God was smarter and made it had a lot more complex system behind it. Because science can't explain it all the way down to a T, and that tells me that they still don't know. If you can't tell me exactly, then that means you don't know.
Yeah.
If you're not 100% certain.
Everybody's got their own opinion of it, though.
Right. Now, with that being said, you got to stand on your opinion if your opinion is what you believe in. Now, my opinion is, and I don't believe God is an opinion. It's true.
Yeah.
But I will stand on that. You know, but for you to stand on something, you know, like we evolved from a rock, blah, 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 but where'd the rock come from? You can't tell me that part of it. That's where I say you have the fault in your theory.
That's where you come in. You got to have the faith in the Bible itself and not in other things. I mean, like Noah, it took him 120 years to build the ark. And I didn't know that exactly until we was there, but like to think about it, like, man, that's a long time to have faith. Like,
imagine how many
times.
times.
A lot of days to doubt. And he was human too. I'm sure he had doubt. Like, man, I hope somebody comes. I hope. But he did. He stayed and had faith and it followed through.
And he didn't
and
care.
Look what happened.
And it worked.
Yeah.
It 100% happened. And that's what I was saying. Could you imagine the relief that they had when the rain finally started to fall?
So much weight off their shoulders.
You know, like we knew, but man, we doubted. Man, we were unsure. Because like that's where we were joking about too. You know, could you imagine how long it took for him to redo that cut if he messed it up?
Yeah.
But that's where I like to think though too is mankind's not as smart as we claim to be because I don't think they had miscuts.
They had
I bet they did it one time.
Unless that's why it took him a little longer.
This could be true too. Could be true, but I think it's more or less dials down. I want to know how they cut everything. I don't think maybe it was all.
Well, like you said, they had a blacksmith back then, so they didn't have chainsaws clearly.
No,
but
they would have had
some of those logs. They had to have been. Well, that's why he had his family.
But I think I don't know.
2-man saws back and forth.
Nobody's ever said how big they were either. So they might have been. These guys might have been.
Exactly. I mean, because I don't picture.
Well, I don't picture a whole bunch of little anorexics running around back then.
No,
I guarantee you they all had to be
saws and axes. They probably had some massive saws.
I bet they were big.
They could have had like two. They could have a 4-person saw back then.
Right, but that's why I think we like to think that that's mankind trying to show that like 4 natural human sized people can't build that. Like they may not have been what we see right now. I'm not sure if it ever depicts like Noah was 5'11", 172. I don't know if it ever says any of that, but what I'm saying is I believe it was created, and I believe God sent Noah to do it, and I know that whatever it took to get it done, God looked forward and looked after him to get it done.
Yeah.
Now, whether that meant that they were bigger than we think they were to take care of and move everything the way they did, or if that meant that God,
or it could have just been their willpower too, just like
that too,
sheer
size
don't matter all the time.
It's not like they had to wake up and clock in to go to work.
No, yeah.
All they had to do was wake up, stretch, and build the boat. Yeah. Keep building, and that was the only drive they had. And people called him crazy. Even I'm sure his own family doubted him. I think they did at certain points, but he pressed on. He didn't care because he knew he was like, if I don't do this, then we all die.
And you got to think, some of his family doubt, like, the relief they had when they were like, man, we
thought he was crazy.
Yeah,
we thought Dad was nuts.
How many times I thought about getting off this thing,
Yeah. Well, look at the movie Evan Almighty. Like, I don't know where it falls in with the blaspheming because certain points of it you don't laugh at God's work, but the parts where the family left him, they left him in the movie.
Or the other one, like Noah. Wow. I mean, that one's a little more.
Yeah, but they left him. They were like, man, you know what? Whatever. Keep building your boat. And then, but when the rain started to fall, where that Escalade they were in turned around and went right back. Which is funny in the movie. They're waiting for the water to fall, like rainfall, but it was the dam.
Yeah.
up above that busted.
That's why that Noah one is a little more in depth.
Oh, yeah.
But-
But I want to find somebody that does it right, because even then I understand, like, that movie doesn't call him God. They say create, or like
Creator.
they don't want to. They still stray from calling him God. You know.
I think that's just a money aspect. They probably can't just say full out God.
Well, no, they
Or
can.
it's
They
gonna-
just don't want to, because somebody's gonna.
You're right, and it's a movie.
Sue
They're trying to
them or-
make money like that too. So, but then you got these other Christian movies that talk about God, like God is real.
And
So
they don't get-
it's whoever created that.
But the movie
in general.
doesn't get, and those movies don't get big either, because it promotes God.
Yeah,
I 100% believe they suppress it.
it reaches all the people that believe it, but it's not really reaching far out.
Right, but I believe though that somebody somewhere is meant to be the one to try to start making those movies be put out there, just like for you to put Jonah Hill and the guys like that in a kids movie, and then you slap PG-13 on it and think it's okay to take your kid and listen to that. Have you watched the movie yourself? You know, half of those I can tell you now, that is how he gets in. The devil gets in. That is how.
Yeah, they start
because
them
we
young.
think it's innocent too, because we'll take them and watch it. I'm guilty of it, but what I'm saying is how easy it happened, and then we just think nothing of it. It's blatant, man. It is obvious.
Yeah.
But we walk right past it, and then but we look radical. That's people start calling us radical, or we're a butthole, or dad's a douche. Which, you know, it ain't none of that. It's that dad understands that, like, look, this is some sickly stuff in the world that will really tear you down if we don't fix it.
Yeah,
You know, and that's because that's coming from somebody that's a man that's looked at women the way that it has been in the Bible these years. I know, and I can tell you now, I'll kill somebody if somebody looks at Sophie the way that I've looked at women in my past. I'll kill them, hands down.
yeah.
But and that's like with the Ark-eology stuff. That's what I was getting at. And to just think that's okay and funny, and just blast her out there like that, and she knew what she was doing. That's the other thing. She knew what she said. She 100% knew what she said. But the thing is how defiling everything has become, and like we just think it's okay to be just
It's all about comedy.
yeah. And it's ridiculous. Well, drama, because I can find comedy and growth and love and faith in God, but I just
What's the worldly's view?
yeah, you find hell in that. That's all you find.
Yep.
But yeah, looking at how they were able to feed those animals, feeding them from above. I don't know how far we strayed off from where I said that last. but-
Yeah. Well, going back to that, like we was talking about the grass and trees and everything not growing, like they had all the herbs they needed in that ship too. All
he
the
was growing.
seeds, all the seeds that they had collected, like showing how many bundles of everything they collected before that. So not even just the animals,
The
but all the
grainage, the
food
grains
and grain
that
that
they
they were growing.
And then, but you know, he had a a lot of people may not know this, but he had a botanical garden on the Ark. So like I believe that or like they had like a vegetable garden on the Ark. I believe though too, some of those may have been plants and whatnot that God wanted to have
Later on,
preserved later. I believe it was still, those were definitely there for probably Noah and his family to be able to eat of. It may have also been there for air quality too.
yeah,
Very well could have been there
because
for air
everything was
quality.
flooded, so there wasn't any trees. They were all lower.
No, right. Very well could have been there for air quality. And then the way that the boat pushed. See, I knew a little bit about the moon pool before I got there, but the way they showed how it works, did you understand that too?
I don't think I've seen that part.
The boat goes up and down, right, as the waves crash into it.
Yeah.
As it goes up and down, it pumps air as the back of the boat is open, and as it comes out of the water and presses down into the water, it pushes air to the back of the boat, and it plunges all the way from the back of the boat all the way up and through and out the front window that he was letting the dove in and out of.
I got
So it also worked as the ventilation system.
That's right.
And air
I remember
conditioning.
us talking about that. The
So
water every time it hit
went
a
up,
wave.
koosh, it just pushed air through the Ark every time. Koosh, poof, pushed air through the Ark. I'm sure they were thankful for that with the elephants and whatnot being in there all the time.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
everything. Yeah.
And then you think though too when they have to scoop it out and clean it out, off in the water it goes. That's all they had to do.
Fertilization.
All they had to do. And then, but some of that, like I'm saying, they probably used some of that to maybe with that garden and whatnot. But there was a lot of animal on there. They had to get rid of that.
Oh, for sure.
But I believe that, I don't know that God, if he had to put like a sleep on the animal or whatever he had to do, but they still had to like eat and sleep,
Yeah.
for a year. So I believe that more or less is what has happened is Noah was smart. God gave Noah the instructions, so he had to be smart, and sent cubs nonetheless to the Ark. Cubs that are for one like teachable, but are not gonna annihilate and kill everybody on the boat.
Yeah.
Anything like that. Now, here's the other thing though too. The growth rate, I'm sure, was unimaginable. So I bet at a year's mark, Noah was like, "Hey, we need bigger cages."
Yeah. Well, because that's what we talked
The bear's
about.
getting bigger in this cage over here, But at that point, I'm guaranteed. Well, I don't know, but I wonder at any point on the ark if they were ever like, "I hope this water disappears now." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wonder if that part. They never talk about that, and I wonder if they're ever. But I'm sure. I wonder though if
It was only flooded for 40 days, right?
it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, but they were
They still had a bunch of water.
They were on the ark for an entire year.
Oh, that's right.
For like 360 something days, 370 something days. They were still on the
Maybe
ark.
that's where they got 365.
Well, see, now that's the now. Well, let me ask you this: do you know how many times the Bible says "fear not" or "do not fear"?
I don't know the exact number, but it's a lot.
It's not as much as you think,
Really?
and it has a lot more significant number to it than you think. 365 times.
Okay.
That's how many times it's stated in the Bible. At least in the King James Version, it is stated 365 times. I guarantee you they didn't have any significance to it when they wrote it.
No, for
But maybe because on the ark, they're on there every day for a year.
sure. Yeah. Well, they knew
That God may have told them every day for the year, don't fear. But I'm willing to bet you though, once the rain fell, I would say for a year's time, I wouldn't have doubted God after that. Well, here we go, because you got to think too, they hadn't even seen rain.
They just continued the faith.
They kept that faith. They had not even seen rain. That's what was so cool about it. There was not even any rain at this point yet.
Well, you got to think it took him 120 years to build it. So I'm sure he was like, well, here's another 120 years,
Yeah.
possibly. I mean,
If you're living to be 800, what's 120 years?
exactly.
That's teenage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's being a teenager. And that's why we think it goes by so fast.
We
for
said
us.
his grandfather was like 900.
Methuselah lived to be like 968, I think it was. That's the oldest man in the Bible, and he died like the week prior to Noah's either completion or the beginning of the construction of the ark. So Methuselah died, and his dad died sometime just before the completion of the ark. So they did say that there is a likelihood that Noah had more than just his wife and his son's wives helping him build the ark.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. We think that it was just Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The three sons of Noah.
Mm-hmm.
They very well could have had more people helping. They could have had people helping that still didn't believe, but just helped because they liked them.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't
It was
know.
like a French, hey man, you need some help this day?
Yeah. Hey, or he could have been like, hey, y'all come help me today. I'll give you some. This is very likely that God could have gave him enough to
Share help.
to share crop or to
Get
what do
the
they call
help.
it? Sharecropping.
Yeah.
Or to give somebody like as you and your family's hungry, I will give you this, but I need you to help me do this. Very likely. I don't know how likely. Could be possible. I'm not sure. But all I know is it doesn't matter throughout the entire path. I can imagine the amount of thunder and whatnot that was going on and stuff too.
Freaking those animals out, dude. And I think
That may have
one
been
little
more-
skit said that Noah said the most annoying animal on the ark was the bird.
Yeah, 'cause they
was
just-
yapping
The whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder where it says that. How do they know that?
Yeah.
That's
And
the
that is
stuff I
true,
wonder. That's the stuff I wonder. But that's why I'm reading it for my own understanding. For one, once I get through this King James version.
Everybody that reads the Bible reads it differently, anyways. And
Right.
that's-
Well, not
as
even
long-
that though. If the words all say the same thing, I want to know what word y'all read that made you think that he was talking about birds.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm getting at. Because at this point, I'm past the ark.
And that may have just been him just trying to be a little comedian in the
Could
in the
100%.
same thing too.
There's a part in the
Because
Bible.
we all know birds yap
Oh
constantly.
yeah. But he used them. He needed the bird alone. The dove is the one that ended up indicating that it was time for them to get off the ark, or that it was okay for them to get off the ark. That's what I like about it. But he's still. Oh, my mom's commenting. Shout out, Mom. Veggies rock. I wonder if she's still watching. Herbs rock. My mom could have lived on the ark, no doubt. My mom could have made it on
I
the
am
ark.
right there with her. Me and Allie's gotten into herbs, and we got these daggum older like doctrine books that talk about herbs, what herbs do what.
Mm-hmm.
So I 100% agree with it. And that's all they had back then.
That's all they look. That's why
And
I
look,
don't
that's
think.
why we don't last as long as we do today.
Right.
Because we're eating all this crap and fast food and man-made product. These hamburgers that's made in a lab. I mean,
Right. Well, that's why I believe too the animal didn't attack mankind like it does today. Because back then I believe that they were probably more at one with the animal. Because
exactly. We talked
like-
about that. Like we went
like, I
down
think
there
it
and
was
killing
last night.
animals.
You
So
know,
it's not fear.
they were. And did you know that that was part of in the Bible why God was saying he needed to destroy the earth because of the senseless murder.
Mm-hmm.
They were senselessly murdering the animal. So apparently at first it's like the animal were given for you if you sin to like kill it, eat it, bless it, you were forgiven. You don't have to do that anymore. But maybe that was like, you know,
We did talk about them sacrificing the lamb and eating
yeah,
the feast. So
absolutely. But the
But
vegetables,
that's more for a purpose. That's why it's everybody talks about in today's time, like, oh, you kill something, you gotta eat it. So it's something. If you're gonna kill it, don't make it not purposeful.
and it does say in the Bible, it says, eat from the meat of the tree. Do you know what that is?
The leaves, herbs, fruit, yeah.
And
course,
so
we can.
Oh no,
I ain't gonna
hands
taste
down.
it, and we don't know if the bug sprayer's been around, but
That's it. You want to start growing fingers.
but no, you're right. There's a lot of them like that out there. Tons of them.
But it's because the world has made it's like go outside barefooted and eat grass. Oh my goodness. What are you,
Well,
an animal?
I believe
like,
that they
well,
talk
at one
about-
point.
Yeah, well, I believe that that's why they push it so much a lot of times, is because they don't want us to have. It talks about them in the Bible, like the herbs. You eat of the herb, eat of the fruit, eat of the seeds.
Right.
Nobody says, "Hey, when you eat your fruit, make sure you eat your seed."
Yeah.
Like, but
They say get
try
the
to
seed
take
out of it.
Yeah,
Dude,
like
they ate
peach trees or peach. One of the, it's one. I think it's an apricot seed. That there's a colony.
My mom will know. I'm pretty sure it is the
But
apricot.
there's like a colony over in another part of the world that ate these, and they were the
Oh, they're
only
like 100
colony to not ever get cancer because
Yeah.
it's like a cancer cure. But that's one of the things that the government tells you, hey, don't eat this because it's bad for you. It'll cause this.
And then cancer thrives on sugar. Like cancer loves sugar. So what's the main thing they put in the food they sell us?
Sugar.
Glucose.
100, yep.
High fructose corn syrup.
And if it ain't real sugar, it's artificial sugar.
yeah.
So, I mean,
And that's the thing, like
artificial
the natural,
sweetener.
your natural, like eat an apple. I promise you will, like if you'll eat an apple when you're hungry, and this is where the people are like, I ain't no rabbit, blah, 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 blah. That's going to be the fat slob that goes against everything somebody tells them is good.
Yeah.
But if you actually try just to eat an apple when you're hungry, just eat the apple, it'll fill you up.
Yeah.
It's called
I've
carb loading, man.
I randomly ate a banana for breakfast, and everybody.
And it fills you up, doesn't
Yeah.
it? It's carb loading, but because we like to get I like the Hunts Brothers pizza.
They are good.
I love a good solid, like stuck to the cardboard Hunts Brothers pizza in the morning.
Floated on water for 150 days.
150 days.
Okay.
It floated on the water for 150 days. But how long until they got off of it? I think they were on the Ark for a while. Because I know he sent them.
No, I think that's what she's saying. It floated. So, like, between the rain and after it stopped after the 40 days, so it rained for another 80.
Oh, okay, after that maybe. Yeah.
No.
Oh, like
70.
after the water
No,
stopped.
70. No. Yeah. Math's off.
But it's nevertheless though, it's like, and then I think you said it too. It's not like God had Noah build that boat to have it sink in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, then they would have been
A lot better at measurements, but I can tell you now, when that boat went up to float, if anything happened, I'd be sitting there thinking, did I touch that part?
yeah, you're right.
That's gonna be the first thing I think about. It's like, dang, I was on that corner.
Was that my hammer?
That's the corner I was on.
Yeah.
That's that one rivet that's that one dowel that I was like, you don't have to drive that one.
Seal that part of the boat up.
I didn't put any pitch in that corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if they did have those thoughts. Like, once it was up, so you know he probably did. It was like, was all this right?
All right, before I pull this door up, is this everything? Like, all right, send a group text, tell everybody we're ready. You just had to go, man.
Yeah.
But that's what I love that. All right, she gave us so it's Genesis chapter 8, verses 3 and 4 talks about how long it floated. Sorry, and I'll look that up and figure out.
Floated and floated, so
Yeah, same,
yeah.
hand in hand. But they didn't have like the cruise ship. All that stuff, it just sits there. You kind of have a guy out there, ding, 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 ding.
Waving everybody in.
And I'm sure Noah probably was out there screaming like, "Hey, look, Noah, right. I know God shut the door. Noah didn't pull it. I know it's just comical purposes, but I'm looking at I'm sure Noah, because Noah was trying to save people too.
Yeah.
Like he was imploring them to get on the boat, but
Not only did he probably want the help, like we talked about a minute ago, he wanted them to believe him.
Mm-hmm. But God knew that like it was only going to be Noah and his family that were going to make it. So I think I wonder if at a certain point Noah kind of like understood.
So
that,
I didn't actually read it in the Bible or see it at the ark, but was there people that tried tearing down the ark, or just tearing
like
him
vandalism,
down?
tried to prevent him from doing it? That'd be interesting to look into. I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that. But I do know that when it began to rain, that a large portion of people ran to the ark.
Yeah. Well, of course.
Because at that point they were like, "Oh no, he was." But that's what I'm saying. I think Noah still had it in his heart to try to tell people about it coming.
He had to. I mean,
But
he wanted to say that.
I think
he would listen.
I wonder if God, if he knew that God knew also that it was only going to be them. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if he knew it was like.
Maybe that's why he had to
But
make sure.
I don't know if that's the case, if you knew that it's only going to be you 4 or 5, if he told you through it and sailed through it. So
Yeah.
I think that's where it comes in. Maybe not. But I know he had the faith in him, and he built it anyways. And it was like we said, this was a monstrosity of a wooden ship.
Yeah.
I've seen some big wooden structures, and none of them have touched the
It says
surface.
it's the largest wooden structure.
With the Queen Elizabeth, I think it was the first wooden one that was built bigger than the Ark, but it took
Yeah. Oh,
that
yeah.
size.
I get you.
Yeah. So we got all the lovely ladies in here now. Oh yeah, my mom. Everybody want to say hey to Aunt Michelle?
Hi. Hi. Happy birthday.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's tomorrow.
It is tomorrow. But do y'all want to?
I can still say happy birthday.
Do y'all want to sing happy early birthday to her?
Yeah.
Well, come on. Hey, Ma. Hope you're ready because we're going to sing you happy birthday. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ma. Happy birthday to you. Woo.
Wait, what's Mom's name?
Michelle. We love you, Ma. Happy early birthday. You're what, 32? I think that's, yeah. I think she turns 32 tomorrow, guys. If you round down. But we love you. I hope I didn't blow anybody's eardrums out, but you'll get over it. That was sweet.
Yeah, if you were wearing earphones like we were, it was a little.
It really
screechy.
hurt my ears. I tried to turn it down.
It was a little loud.
It was loud. It was loud. I loved it though. It was great. But she rounded down. My mom rounded down. So yeah, it's 32. She said that they were probably clawing and screaming trying to get in, but don't think it was how the Hollywood, portrayed it in the movie.
Yeah.
I bet they really were at that point.
They knew they had done messed up. For
Yeah. I mean, but what gets me is when we pulled up there looking at it, you could see the city and everything around the boat. Back then, all they had was all the trees and everything around it, and just in the middle of nothing, there was just random, just massive wooden structure.
So even above all these trees, you definitely
saw it. And you got them people looking from valleys and everything across from where it's at, like, what is he building and why?
Yeah.
And then you go down there and talk to him, and then that's where people people are like, oh, he believes that God built this place, blah, blah, blah. Start calling them crazy. And then you're like, well, when it started raining, you're like, I'm crazy too. I believe God did it. I believe God did it. Well, you waited too late to be a radical, bud. These days, if you believe in God, they make you look crazy. Just because the things you end up not believing and stuff like that, it's not that. I'm just saying at a certain point, you can't explain how God did it. But it's been a good episode. I believe we've stayed a little closer on the art than the last one. But I'm not worried about it. I don't ever really care. I just like talking about it anyways. But the next thing, well, I had one other thing though too, is I didn't think, we have continents and whatnot now. I don't think it was ever a Pangea effect. Yes, and Morgan did love her shirt. It's the one I'm wearing now. Faith like Noah. Yeah, because he had to have some faith, right? But Morgan did love her shirt. Sophie's might be a little small, but we'll make it happen. But the Pangea effect, or what they say caused the continents that what we have now. I think what caused the continents that we have now was the constant just churning of the flood and the waters erupting from the deep and the lava and everything. I think the flood is what created what we have now as our continents and everything like that. I don't think it was ever like a Pangea effect or whatever they. For one, I don't even. What even is the Pangea effect? Just at one time the Earth was like, snap. I don't get it. I think it was. I believe it happened from the churning of water and magma.
Let's take the Grand Canyon for instance. There's a massive hole in the ground.
Right, it is now. Did you know how they? Do you know what they claim caused the? Yeah, I believe it. 100%. The flood caused everything we have right now. 100% believe it. That's just what science claim. They try to discredit that. Yeah. But I forgot what I was going with it now. But it's just that's where the creation and evolution is the part. Is like it's just that I believe God created it, and the flood gave us what we have now, and that science can't explain it. Evolutionists believe that science can't explain it because they're smarter than God.
Well, like we was going back to the water. Like we have saltwater bodies of water and lakes, fresh water. So it had to have settled how it needed to settle.
How did it settle in such a way? And that's the thing. Like you have all these different, like very, very, like.
Turn the hose on.
Okay, turn it on.
We were getting the cat, and we walked over it, and it turned on by itself.
Oh no. Hey, we're talking about a flood right now, so turn it off before it floods.
Hurry, just turn it off.
I can't. We ain't got enough gopher wood out here to build a boat. Oh, but I remember, I was saying it last night too. I believe we're at a time in the world where if the flood hasn't happened, that somebody would be building an ark right now.
Yeah, some kind of shelter.
Yeah. Well, you got Elon Musk thinks he's going to get us out of here to another planet, but that's not the kind of ark you need to get on. The ark you need to get on is the ark of salvation through the bloodshed of Jesus Christ. And that boat will float you away from the fire that we're going to have. And I don't know.
It didn't say in the Bible, hey, get on this ship with this man and go to another of my creations.
No, it didn't. It said that you better believe and that it's going to end in a flash faster than you can blink your eye. And I don't think that it's good to gamble with your salvation up until that blink to, yep, I believe. It's not a good time to try it. It's not a good time to try it. I suck at gambling now. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm no good at gambling now. I can tell you. I've always been. Every time I've ever just let God take it, it's been fine. It may not have went the way that I thought it would have went, but that's what I get for thinking. 9 times out of 10, the way I thought that room was supposed to have a blue ceiling that day. I painted it for you, but it wasn't. It was supposed to be white.
In your eyes, everything when you look up is blue. So
well, at that point, it probably. Well, it was the first job. All right, so we'll go ahead and roll out with maybe. I don't know. We'll just see how it happens. This job. Now, this will pretty much end, I guess, where we were talking about with the ark, but how I believe Noah and them were smarter than we were, because I don't think we would have done some of the mistakes that we had today if we were alive back then. Because we could have just ran to Home Depot to buy another bucket.
Yeah.
He
didn't have nowhere. Well, got to go to the forest 4 times
you know
today.
What I mean? He's like, did you miscut that again? You know what I mean?
Hey, you're costing me some lumber here.
It's like it's not even hurting me in money, but that's going to take 6 weeks to get that piece cut. You know what I mean? No, and that's where I think too, though, is like I bet they had really good saws and whatnot. Like I bet they were like surgical grade, like one fluid just right through the woods. Chainsaws don't cut as fast as the saws that they had back then. But they like when we were painting that room. This is like the first job that Alex got set up when he started. Was it Jam Up Construction? This was
a few years ago.
A couple years ago. So we get a job to paint some houses, or a house. We're painting the ceilings, and the first week that I'm working with Alex, he goes to Orlando. Now,
in my defense, I did ask if you could take care of it.
And in my defense, I could.
Leave you without work.
And I did 100% handle it, no doubt.
Bought a little extra paint, but hey,
we bought an extra gallon of white paint, and that room turned out better than the rest of them.
Yeah, thickest coat in the room.
The thickest coat in the house. But what got me with it was, it was like, it looked really good. I was like, I don't know why they chose blue in here. And you're like, yeah, they didn't. That was when I called you. I was like, yeah, everything looks good. I mean, I don't know why the room's got the blue ceiling. He's like, well, it's not supposed to. Why is it blue? And I was like, okay, I got to call you back. I got to call. Hey, did I say that out loud? Hang on. Hold on, I must have dropped my phone. You heard something. That's not what I said. Yeah, it definitely, for a split second, my heart dropped to my butt, man. I was like, I just lost my job. It was the first job. And then, like, what makes it worse is...
But I think before I got to tell Lynn, I do think she called me and was like, hey, why is my ceiling blue?
Yeah, well, no, what makes it worse than that is the whole hour before we did this, they went through telling us how we had to, like, scrape the paint out of the bucket before we opened another paint bucket. So, like, it was like... I mean, it's like you didn't have to worry about money, but either way, what I'm getting at was like, I was like, oh no, they're going to be really mad about that. It was like, I can't stretch that. You know what I mean? There's no way to stretch a whole gallon of paint, or not a quarter of a gallon for a whole room. So, but it turned out good.
In my defense, also, it looked good. I mean,
it did.
Great job at the painting, by the way.
It cut in really nice. It just wasn't cut in with the right color.
Yeah.
But, I like to think I'm like Bob Ross, man. I don't make mistakes. Happy little incidents. Or something like that. I think that's how he said it. I'm not sure. He's a weird individual, too. Weird little curly-headed guy painting.
I've seen him.
At 2 o'clock in the morning. It's kind of weird.
He actually started the first AMSMR, or ASMR. I think that's how I'm saying it right. So it was like where he talked about I'm brush stroking like this.
Yeah. And if you lean in and you exhale on this stroke.
But people thought it was satisfying. They liked watching him paint and liked him explaining how he was painting. Yeah, exactly.
Like breathing in. You want to watch me paint?
Hey, maybe we could do that on the podcast. Be like, CF.
ASMR. Welcome to DadPod. I can't even do it, joking. Welcome to DadPod. The podcast where we talk about dad stuff.
We whisper about dad stuff.
You want to understand how to help your kids get their Velcro shoes on and off without making a whole noise in the background? Hey, Mom, how's my ASMR working? I don't even know what ASMR stands for, but
it's where they take
like
eating stuff, like hearing the smack. Some people, I'm not a fan of it, but some people like the.
Oh, so some people would like this then.
Make a little more.
Yes.
And this is how you drink a C4.
Yeah. No, that's not how you do it. It's shotgun. You
need to
slam it on your head. Let me finish that off now.
Yep. Now we can't sit it back down.
My mom likes Bob Ross. But what did you say ASMR stands for?
Autonomous sensory meridian response.
That's how I know the world is stupid. And we've just come down to... What does any of that word even mean?
It says it's the fuzzy tingling sort of feeling some people get when they hear certain sounds recorded.
So it's just people's satisfaction.
Tapping on a keyboard.
This world is stupid. It's come up with some really dumb... No, it's just the way they named it and abbreviate things these days, and the way they diseases and stuff like that, and just all these ways they've come about, like just trying to comfort things. It's just soft. Don't get onto your kid. He can't help it. He's over there screaming. He can't help it. He's over there with a Sharpie writing on your Ferrari. Leave my kid alone. Like, I'm not going to leave your kid alone. I'm actually fixing to drag your kid down the sidewalk, you know. And it's like,
get your kid or you're going to.
That's what I was telling Sophie, and I told her, I was like, yeah, I'll talk to you about that some other day. But she was telling me that, you know, a kid in her class was telling her that the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy and all that was not real. And I was like, well, you just give me the kid's address and where he lives, and I'll go talk to him and his dad. You know, I'm wearing my little backpack.
This is my big brother.
Yeah,
hey, Adam Sandler did it.
He did. I'm going to wear a duck backpack with a little red hat. You know what I mean? Just stand out there. I'm going to wear long sleeves so you can't see my tattoos.
So where's Jimmy?
It's like, hey, I was coming to ride with my... No, his name's Colin, like where your fecal matter runs through. And that's how he talks to my daughter, like he's talking out of his butt. And I don't like it. So, but Colin, or whatever his name is, and if you listen and that's your son, you better tell him to start talking with his mouth and not his colon. But he's, you know, he's bullying my daughter and whatnot. He's been pinching her and everything. I tell Sophie, and she does good, but she doesn't antagonize or anything. But I can tell you now, right? If the kid hits her or anything, Dad is not going to be mad if my little girl shows your colonated son, your colonoscopy kid, how to throw a 1-2. Don't be mad. That's all I'm getting at.
Don't be crying when he comes home bruised up
Hey
by a
man,
girl.
6 to 60, it don't discriminate. If you're mean, you're mean. You know, just is what it is. It is what it is. And when you see kids act certain ways, it's because their parents act like that at home.
Yeah.
100%. So do you think you're not only going to have to tell that kid not to do that, you're going to have to tell the parents not to. That's the sad part. And that's where I'm like, unfortunately, you and your kid just got beat up. You know what I mean? It's like, if you were just done right in the first place, your kid wouldn't have got it too. And I am joking, right? But, you know, everybody knows, you know, like I do as a parent in public, when a kid start acting up, you know, you're like, not mine. You know what I'm saying? Like, not mine. We're already. But that's just all of us. It's bred in all of us to know, like, man, you should act a certain way. And just because something's up with you doesn't mean you should be able to act however you want.
Yeah.
You know, that's another thing. Sometimes it's out of your hands, sometimes it's not, but it's always in God's hands. God can always take care of it. That's why I let the whole thing. I can tell you, there were times I almost snatched 2 teenagers out of their car at the Civic Center one night because they turned around on me and Morgan and Sophie. We were taking Sophie to her softball practice. They turned around on us. We did almost pull out in front of them, but we stopped. We didn't see them. It was an honest mistake.
Yeah.
But they come by in front of us blowing the horn, telling us we were number 1, but with the other finger, obviously. And
not happy.
Right. Now, we didn't antagonize. We drove on into the park, but then I noticed that car came flying in behind us, blowing the horn again. But what they did not know, apparently, was when they turned into where the baseball fields were, you can't exit that way. You have to come back out.
Oh.
So you know what Nick did? Yeah. I was standing in the middle of the road, standing there tapping my foot, looking at my watch like, where are you? You got to come back. You got to. So they did. They circled back. And I noticed as they were pulling up to me that it was like a 16-year-old girl driving and like probably a same-year-old male in the passenger seat. They pull up and I stand in front because they were trying to drive past me at that point. I was like, oh, no, not now. No, we're going to talk. We're going to talk. So I at least stopped them. And I was like, hey, what's going on? They were like, man, you didn't see us back there? Like, they were already kind of starting to get frazzled. You didn't see us back there at the intersection? I said, no, man, I didn't. And about the time I said that, Sophie had started crying because Morgan was getting her out of the car. And they both were like, we're sorry. We didn't know you had your little girl with you. I said, look, it's okay. I know you didn't. But I do want you to know that she's the only reason I'm not sitting in that middle console with you two right now. And they were both like,
don't pull around on me like that.
That's what I told him. I said, look, if it hadn't have been for her and me noticing that you two were teenagers, I would be inside this car with you two right now.
Teaching you a lesson.
100%. But they started telling me yes or no, sir. And that was when I was like, well, I got the manners out of them at least. Then they were like, your daughter's beautiful. We're apologizing. And I told him, I said, look, if you get anything from it, if you may not have made it home. if you say you pulled up on anybody else and they shot and killed both of you. You don't know. You have no idea who that guy may have been. Mm-hmm. And I was in my boxing shirt and all that kind of stuff. I didn't say anything, but I know that maybe they read that. I don't know. But all I'm getting at is like, I was like, I could right now, but I'm not.
Yeah.
But I could.
Yeah.
And I really want to.
Yeah.
And I really, really want to, because it would be so easy for me to roll you two up and smoke you, but I'm not like that. For one, I wouldn't have done it to the girlfriend. I'm like, he's getting double because I can't hit you. You know what I mean? So like, there's one jab for him. There's the one for you. Here's one uppercut for him. There's one uppercut for you.
But we withhold ourselves, and
there's power in not using it.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned. Like, there were times of sparring and I knew that I was like,
that's where a lot of things, the world's gotten masculinity wrong. It's like, it's not about just going out there and beating somebody to a freaking pulp.
It's not. I tell you, I had more power knowing that I could have and stopped.
Yeah.
That made me feel better about it than getting my hand held up. Even that was great. But knowing that I was like, I could have done so much worse than that. Like, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I stopped because it didn't feel right. Like, that's using your heart, not your head. Mm-hmm. Right, and that's good. That's how you should fight.
Sometimes it's hard in the moment, but
it is. But you got to.
That's where the power comes in.
It is, and it's tough. But imagine the power and whatnot. Like I said, just to touch back with what we've been on tonight with the Ark, but the amount of power and relief and faith that he had once the rain started. At that point, Noah probably was like, yeah, who you think's crazy now? You know what I mean? Sitting up, you like my boat? You like my boat now? And I don't believe he was like that.
Yeah.
But 100%, I bet he was finally like, oh, all those years, and then calling me crazy, And I could just see that he had to bite his tongue at certain points, like, you like my boat now, don't you? You know what I mean? But he did. I know he didn't do that. You know what I mean? Because I can tell you, if he was like the men in the Bible I've been reading about it, he in his heart still wanted them to be on the boat with him too. But he knew maybe that God told him was like, I'm gonna preserve you and your family. He didn't say you and all those running towards the boat.
Yeah.
He said you and your family.
That's why he wanted his family to stay aboard so much.
And then that's where people say,
what might happen.
Right. And then people say, well, then how come there's still sin in the world today if he wiped it out with the flood? The thing, if he wiped everything out, then we would have no meaning today. We would be right back to where we were.
Well, if everybody believed more of the Ark, then we wouldn't have the same issues either.
You would,
because
right? That's the
be
point.
Like, hey, man, I might want to live a little right.
Just that's the point, though. Our whole purpose in life is to teach people that we believe in God and that he's real, and these are factual events that's happened.
Yeah.
With being the Ark, and we believe the Ark is what's created everything that we're in today's time. That we're living in, everything we have, the air quality, everything was different. I just believe everything was better pre-flood. I believe it was, but it was also way more dangerous. I think God gave us a lot more livable world today that we have than what was like back then. And then once again, there's no longer like behemoths running around. Now we have remnants of them, right? Now what do we call the remnants? They're like their DNA tracks down these lines to like, they did a M3andMe thing or whatever that's called, or ancestry, and it turns out way down the line, his great grandfather was like part of the, I don't know, the Vikings or something, like they were all just big behemoths, and it's like, I think that maybe we're trying to tie together the lineages is like, he might be a descendant from like what could have been Nephilim pre-flood.
Yeah.
Is where giants have come into the world today, I think. And then it's like, well, then how did they make it into what got put on the Ark that carried on the behemoth or the Nephilim kind of thing? Could have been any of Noah's kids, the wives. None of the wives were of Noah. None of the wives. The wives were of the world. They were all still of Adam and Eve, but the wives were not descendants of Noah. Or Noah. That's the Hebrew. Learned that one today. Noah. That's not real hard to figure that out. It's just easy one to learn. But they were not descendants of Noah. They were of the world, And I believe, there was like also interracial. 100% was where we got our the different races carried over into today's time. I don't believe, I don't know what all I'm mixed with, but I believe there's some Indian and Irish apparently somewhere. At least if not Irish, there's some Scottish in me somewhere. I say that pretty good. I think I'm Scottish. I think I might be Scottish, but it sounds good.
I know how to do a cartwheel.
Do you? Let me see it. Do it again. Nice. Who taught you how to do that?
Sophie.
Let me see. I didn't get to
Do it again. Do it again. We're watching kids do cartwheels.
What did she teach you different?
Very nice.
Dang, Elena Marcus.
Very nice.
Every time I did my cartwheel,
But I believe that everything was a lot bigger pre-flood.
Yeah.
And I think God gave us a better world, although the quality of it is not as good.
It's hard to say a little too lovable in certain aspects. But
Yeah.
opposite.
Well, because like I
definitely
said,
a more loving world, like you're talking about. There's so much like fire, and death, and
right. Well, now we still have all these things.
yeah, just in different ways.
I think this is.
There's
it's
more.
just-
I think it was more well, if you think about it, we say more slaughter back then, and we don't really know, but
Right.
people get slaughtered just out on the
It
streets.
happens, dude. The father shot his 4 sons in his front yard.
Yeah,
That kind of these kind of things happen, and like that's where the world's like, oh, but it always happens. He said, yeah, duh. I know it does. The Bible's trying to tell
how
you.
far that man was from Christ, though.
Oh, could you? Right.
Like we're blaming it on this one person, but what it is this one person. But look how far he was. The devil persuaded him so much to believe that God wasn't real. that
How
was
easy
need to happen.
how easy did the devil persuade Adam and Eve first?
Exactly.
And it never says it was an apple, right? Obviously, we get that because we have apples today. But what it was it was not what they ate that caused it. It was the command that they broke was the thing.
Because
right?
God told
All
Adam
it was
to not.
He told Adam, "Don't do it." All right. It doesn't know it. We didn't know what fruit he was talking about, telling him not to eat, but he said, "Don't do it." I can tell you now, it was not the fruit; it was the fact that he didn't listen to God.
Yeah.
And he went against God. Now, Eve ate it.
Because he technically said, eat everything else you want.
Yeah, eat everything. Just don't eat this.
This.
Now, why is that so hard for you to understand? Is like even your dad telling you, like, son, you can play with everything here, just don't touch this. But you end up breaking that while he's gone, don't you? It's
Yeah.
like, why is that so hard? But that is our purpose in life, to understand that for one, you're never going to go throughout every day knowing that you did right, because you won't. You're going to fail every day, but you have to strive every day. But now here's the things where it's like, okay, the 7 deadly sins, those are wrong. If you break one of those throughout the day, or not, maybe like you can't go through all 10 commandments every day and not break them, kind of thing. But what I'm getting at is like the reason you can't withhold those should show you the grace that God gives you to know that He'll still save you, knowing that you can't withhold all 10. But if you do your best to try to hold all 10 and pray for Him to help
If
you
you
all
make it
day,
down to like
He's gonna
you're
save
starting
you.
at like 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 and get down to
you
3 out of
always
10
end out
daily.
at you end out at you almost end out at 1 out of 10 daily, almost every day. Because I can tell you, there's 2. If you follow 2 of them, it takes care of all the rest.
Yeah.
Love one God, the only God, like no other, and then treat yourself like you treat your neighbor.
Yeah. So well,
You
you
do- I don't-
treated honestly, you're right. Those 2 right there.
Because you don't want your neighbor to steal, lie, cheat, or kill you.
Nope.
You handle all of those, you should be okay, right?
Yeah.
But we fail. And that's okay as long as you don't waste failure. That's what we do, is waste failure. Like Nick Saban said it best. Now, I'm not glorifying Nick Saban, but Nick Saban he preached on, or spoke on, I don't like saying preach because he preaches football, not preaching God, but
Yeah.
you can't waste failure. If you fail and you just succumb to your failure, well then yeah, you're a failure. That's what you are. You failed. Now, if you fail and learn from it and progress and press on, that's what makes champions. Now, yeah, Nick Saban had less losses than wins, okay, but that's because he made sure everybody understood that, like, look, the training, all these things are meant to be hard. You're going to fail. You're going to have failure, but we cannot waste the failure. So don't waste the hard times that you're given. Use those times to test your faith. That's what it's there for. Test the faith. Try it. Use it. Don't test it as in like jump off the roof and see if God saves you. Test it.
Yeah.
But pray for them to help the situation.
You got to put some common sense in there.
Yeah, right. But the world tries to, well, if you can't make common sense of it, then I don't believe it. Well, once again, that's where I'm saying I don't believe in what science teaches me either. So you can't. You're trying to. You got to whisper into his ear. He whispered into the microphone.
Say it.
So, for everybody that doesn't know, we will be moving back to Alabama this coming weekend.
Yay! So, yeah, because we were talking about on episode, I'm not sure which episode on Spotify, but it's the episode labeled Guess Who. But we've been having to get Alex intermittently moving back and forth for work. He moved to Tennessee. How long have you been in Tennessee?
4 months.
4 months for work.
4 months, I think.
Is she talking?
But he's back here now. They're moving back home now. And probably going to end up having Monkus ended up being a co-host next, too.
We'll try.
And we're going to end up having...
We got a lot to do.
I know.
But, hey, this is stuff too.
But what I'm getting at, just to be able to... This is what I look forward to, is all the kids and whatnot in the background. I've been saying it from the get-go with DadPod.
And we're missing another friend tonight that we'd like to get on. But,
yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's the... Well, once everything's douses down too, you know, like
For
it's
sure.
going to be... He's going to be great. So, you know, I can't wait to see where it goes. But God loves you, and we love you here on DadPod. It's been a great episode tonight. And we're going to get these kids ready for bed. All right, but before we roll off with it, we want to thank everybody that has stepped on, listened to us. Thanks, Mom.
No, you're younger.
I love my mom. She's always good. She always helps encourage and press me on to keep doing it. Whether any of you watch or not, I do it for my mom nonetheless. I love you, Mom. But I do it for God, right? God first and foremost. And I want to thank God for placing everybody in my path that has helped DadPod come about. First and foremost, God. And then we want to thank Juarez Boxing, right? That is my employment. We want to thank Brandon Foster with Foster's & Son Custom Woodcrafts, and Tyler Etress with Nothing Fancy Lawn Care and Pressure Washing. Now, don't let that name fool you. He does some great work. Now, tonight's episode was episode 25, Ark-eology, the sequel. Now, this is episode 25. This is the season 2 finale, and we want to thank all of those that helped bring this episode forward. For those on YouTube and Facebook, give us a scan on that QR code. Follow us on Spotify. But God loves you, and we love you here tonight. Thank you for stepping on another episode with me. All right, but we love you.
No problem.
We pray everybody has a great
more
week.
to come.
Oh, absolutely. All of them that you'll get on with me. Everybody better go to church tomorrow. Go to church and get these hands. Just kidding. Go to church and get God's love. God loves you and we love you, and I pray everybody has a great weekend.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
You gotta love those girls in the background. You gotta love